In the silent realm of plants, a language exists beyond our human perception, a symphony of molecular vibrations and electrical signals that guide growth, defense, and survival. This hidden conversation happens not through ears or vocal cords, but through sophisticated cellular mechanisms that allow plants to literally hear themselves grow. Dr. Daniela Appleton adjusts her headphones in the laboratory at the University of Bristol. It is 2017, and she is listening to something extraordinary, the amplified sound of a corn seedling growing. The crackling, popping noises that emerge from her specialized equipment are not merely the mechanical sounds of cells expanding. They are acoustic emissions that plants themselves can detect and respond to. What we are hearing is a plant's internal monologue, explains Dr. Appleton. The most fascinating part is that plants are listening to these sounds too, though not in the way humans understand hearing. This revelation began decades earlier. In 1983, plant physiologist Dr. Frank Salisbury published observations suggesting plants might respond to sound vibrations. However, it was not until the early 2000s that scientists began to uncover the mechanisms behind plant acoustic sensitivity. The story truly accelerated in 2014, when Dr. Monica Gagliano at the University of Western Australia published groundbreaking research demonstrating that corn roots would grow toward the source of water-based sounds, even when the water itself was not accessible. The roots seemed to hear and navigate toward the sound of flowing water. But how do plants, organisms without ears or auditory nerves, detect these acoustic signals? The answer lies in mechanoreceptors, specialized proteins embedded in plant cell membranes that can detect mechanical disturbances, including sound vibrations. One key class of these proteins is called mechanosensitive ion channels, which open and close in response to physical pressure or vibration, creating electrical signals that travel through the plant. Think of them as tiny pressure-sensitive gates, says Dr. Tara Richardson, a botanical acoustics researcher at the University of California, Berkeley. When sound waves hit a plant, these microscopic gates feel the pressure change and open, allowing charged particles to flow across the cell membrane. This creates an electrical current, essentially translating sound into a signal the plant can process. In 2019, researchers at Tel Aviv University led by Dr. Lilach Haydani discovered another remarkable capability: plants not only detect sounds but emit them as well. Using special microphones in a soundproof chamber, they recorded ultrasonic sounds, too high-pitched for human ears, coming from tomato and tobacco plants when under drought stress or when their stems were cut. These acoustic emissions are not random. Plants under drought stress emitted sounds at specific frequencies between 20 to 100 kHz. The pattern of these emissions was so distinctive that machine learning algorithms could determine what kind of stress the plant was experiencing based solely on its acoustic signature. But why would plants evolve to emit and detect sounds? The answer connects to one of the most fundamental processes in plant life: growth. When plant cells grow, their cell walls must expand. This process, called cell wall loosening, creates tiny fractures in the rigid cellulose structure, fractures that produce acoustic emissions. These sounds carry information about the plant's growth status, structural integrity, and water content. By hearing these emissions, plants can regulate their own development. In 2017, a team at the Institute of Plant Sciences in Bern, Switzerland, led by Dr. Edward Farmer, discovered that when a plant leaf is damaged, it sends electrical signals similar to those in animal nervous systems. These signals, traveling at about 1 centimeter per minute, warn distant parts of the plant about potential threats. Alongside these electrical signals, the damaged areas emit specific acoustic signatures that appear to reinforce the warning message. Dr. Richardson's team discovered something even more remarkable in 2021. We found that the sounds of healthy growth in one plant could influence the growth patterns of neighboring plants of the same species, she explains. It suggests that plants are eavesdropping on each other's growth sounds to gauge optimal growing conditions. The cellular mechanisms behind this acoustic sensitivity are remarkably sophisticated. Plants possess proteins called integrins that connect the cell membrane to the cell wall and internal cytoskeleton. When sound vibrations disturb these connections, they trigger calcium ion influxes that can travel through the plant's vascular system. Dr. Jürgen Kleinven at the University of Natural Resources and Life Sciences in Vienna demonstrated in 2020 that these calcium waves influence the distribution of auxin, the primary plant growth hormone. In essence, sound vibrations can directly influence how plants grow by affecting hormone transport. This discovery helps explain a phenomenon that gardeners and farmers have observed for centuries: plants seem to grow better when exposed to certain sounds. In controlled studies, plants exposed to specific frequencies between 100 and 500 Hz showed increased growth rates, improved germination, and higher crop yields. These frequencies happen to overlap with many of the sounds that plants themselves produce during growth. The ability to detect sound offers plants numerous evolutionary advantages. Sound travels faster than chemical signals and can convey different types of information, explains Dr. Appleton. A plant detecting the sound of insect mandibles chewing might prepare its defenses before actual damage occurs. Indeed, a 2019 study published in Ecologia by Dr. Heidi Appel and Dr. Rex Cockcroft showed that recordings of caterpillar feeding vibrations alone were enough to trigger chemical defenses in Arabidopsis plants. The plants could distinguish these feeding sounds from other environmental vibrations like wind or non-threatening insect sounds. Even more remarkably, plants might be using sound for a form of self-diagnosis. When water moves through plant xylem, the vascular tissue that transports water from roots to leaves, it creates distinctive sounds. During drought conditions, air bubbles form in these vessels, creating a popping sound called cavitation. By detecting these acoustic emissions, plants can assess their own hydration status and adjust water uptake accordingly. It is a bit like the way we might hear our own stomach growling and recognize hunger, says Dr. Richardson. Plants hear their own physiological processes and respond appropriately. The phenomenon extends beyond individual plants. In forests, trees connected by networks of fungal mycelia, sometimes called the wood wide web, might share acoustic information. A 2022 study by ecologists at the Swiss Federal Institute for Forest, Snow and Landscape Research suggests that stress sounds from one tree could potentially warn others through this underground network, complementing the already documented chemical signal sharing. Beyond the practical applications for agriculture, this understanding of plant acoustics forces us to reconsider our understanding of intelligence and sensory perception. Plants demonstrate a form of distributed intelligence without a centralized brain. They process information from their environment, including sound, and make complex adaptive responses. We tend to think of intelligence and sensory capabilities in terms of animal models: eyes, ears, brains, Dr. Appleton notes. But plants have evolved entirely different solutions to the same challenges of environmental monitoring and response. In 2022, researchers at ETH Zurich used laser vibrometry to detect minute vibrations in plant leaves and stems in response to sound. The patterns revealed that different parts of the plant respond to different frequencies, suggesting a form of frequency mapping somewhat analogous to how our cochlea processes different sound frequencies. The implications of these discoveries extend beyond biology. Engineers are now developing biomimetic sensors based on plant mechanoreceptors for applications ranging from structural health monitoring to ultrasensitive microphones. These plant-inspired technologies might someday listen to buildings to detect early signs of structural weakness or monitor the cellular sounds of human tissues to detect pathological changes. For farmers and gardeners, understanding plant acoustics offers new approaches to plant care. Australian vineyards have begun experimental use of sound monitoring to detect early signs of water stress in grapevines before visible symptoms appear. By listening to their crops, farmers can optimize irrigation and potentially reduce water usage by up to 30%. Perhaps most profoundly, these discoveries challenge our conception of plant life as passive and insensate. In their own way, plants are actively engaged with their acoustic environment, both listening and speaking in a language of mechanical vibrations. The next time you walk through a garden or forest, consider that you are surrounded by organisms engaged in constant acoustic communication. Though inaudible to human ears, the plants are sharing information about growth conditions, warning of dangers, and responding to each other's presence through a sophisticated language of sound. The corn seedling in Dr. Appleton's laboratory continues its slow, persistent growth, each cell division and expansion creating tiny sonic signatures that the plant itself can detect and respond to. In this world of green life that appears so silent to us, an entire universe of acoustic communication unfolds, reminding us that our human-centered understanding of sensory perception captures only a narrow slice of reality. Plants do not hear as we do, they have no ears or auditory cortex, but they have evolved their own unique relationship with sound that serves their needs perfectly. They hear themselves grow, and in doing so, reveal to us a world of sensory experience far richer and more diverse than we once imagined.